I'm Chris.
I'm Sandy.
And this is Parenting Autism.
Here we go.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
Hello, hello.
We have another episode for you today, and we hope you enjoy it. And what do we got?
What do we got? Well, we've had a lot happen in the past 2 weeks. And
Where did we leave off?
we left off, well, we're going to be going to get Bryce's MRI. So we've had that in the past 2 weeks.
Yep.
And we got Bryce's new ABA plan in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
We've been to our local county fair 2 times since we last recorded. We went to the Science Center in Orlando, the local planetarium at our college, and hot off the press, we this morning were with the Young Eagles at the Stewart Airport, and Bryce got to fly a plane. So we have a lot to kind of talk about today.
Wow, and all that we balance with work and everything else.
Yes.
How do we do it all?
You
don't
wonder
know.
why sometimes we feel tired.
Wow. So let's start with the number one. What are we at?
I think probably we'll go ahead and just talk about the MRI experience.
Sure.
So we don't have results yet because I know we've had a lot of people reaching out and wanting to know, if we've got our results yet. We are scheduled for this Wednesday to meet with the doctor in Orlando. So this time we'll be able to go over the EEG as well as the MRI with him and kind of know what our plans are going forward.
Get his feel.
So we'll have that update in the next podcast. But the MRI experience in itself was a lot. And I know that I didn't realize how anxious I was feeling about all of it.
You were more anxious than anybody in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what really had me on edge, we'll say, a little nervous and sad and everything else was Bryce was really, really anxious about having any type of needle for this procedure.
Yeah, whenever he goes to the doctor or any other place that's considered medical, he's always worried about there being a needle, even though we tell him there's no needle.
Right. And so you did a great job of showing him a video of an MRI machine. You described it to look like a donut, and he'd be going inside of the donut. And he was fine with it. And actually, he was excited. We had already prepped him that they would just be taking pictures of his brain. But he just kept saying, there's no needles. No, there's no needles. But we knew that they were going to have to sedate him, which would require a needle for the IV. And then we had already said if he's going to be sedated, you can do his blood work so he doesn't know that he's getting another poke. So when we got there...
Well, our expectation was that he would be sedated somehow by like a pill or something before they gave him the needle.
I don't think that was my expectation. So if you were expecting that...
That's what I was expecting.
I wasn't, and that's why I was so anxious.
Okay.
Because my understanding was that they would just be giving him an IV, which would be the needle right in his hand. I was hoping that maybe they could give him something that, like a gas, that would help. But that really wasn't discussed. And then when we got there and we checked in, the girl at the front desk said to you, oh, well, these are 2 separate orders or something.
Yeah, they'll be doing these separately. I'm
talking about the blood work and talking about his MRI. So when you told me that, I'm like, no. So I went up and I said, I know
Mama
you got
bear.
it. I did. It came out. The claws were out that day in a nice way, but very protective. And then I went up to her and she was on the phone. And I could tell she was rattled. And I'm like, I know you got a lot going on, but I just want to make sure we have an understanding here that these aren't 2 separate things, and the blood work is supposed to be done while he's sedated. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't know that. And then at that same time, there was another care person coming, and she goes, okay, well, you can talk to her. She'll answer all your questions. So we went in the back, and I explained to her my concerns. And I just said, he's going to, if we give him a needle now, he's never going to trust us again going to any type of medical facility because he's not going to forget that. And I felt like we were going to be betraying his trust. And I was really very concerned and upset about that. So she said, well, when we get to the back, you can explain everything. The anesthesiologist will be there and you can tell them your concerns. I said, okay. So we got to the back, and I had to say the team at Arnold Palmer Children in Orlando, they were fantastic. Very patient. And I know they run on a tight schedule. And they made it clear that they were on a tight schedule, but they didn't make me feel like they were like, no, sorry, we can't accommodate you because we're on a tight schedule, which I appreciated that.
They talked it out.
We talked it out. I saw a lot of eye contact going back and forth between them, like kind of stressing, like how much time do we have? Because I said, I expressed my concerns. And then I said, you know, I don't think he could be still, but could we try him being still? And if that doesn't work, we can try again, or do we have to come back?
And they determined that they didn't have time to
Well,
to do that.
And the anesthesiologist was very polite, and he was observing Bryce, and he goes, I've only been in the room with him for a few minutes, but I'm pretty sure he can't sit still for this because Bryce is very fidgety. And I said, I know. But when I really explained my concerns, and that's when he asked us a series of questions. I guess we gave the right answers. And that's when he said, well, I think we could give him a gas and that would relax him. And then we could do the rest. And I'm like, yes, if you can do that, I'm good. And I think from that point, it was a sigh of relief for me. And then they brought out the mask to introduce him to that. And you have a sleep apnea machine. So it was good. You use that comparison. You know what Daddy wears at night. This is going to help you. I think we kind of freaked him out when we said it wasn't going to smell good. So then he's like, what? It doesn't smell good.
Well, that's what the guy said.
I know. So that's what I'm saying.
I
didn't
say
say we.
Expectations,
right.
You know? I didn't want
the doctor said it, and then you said it. Yeah. But then they put something in there, like a balm that would make it smell better. So
not a B-O-M-B.
A B-A-L-M. Sorry, like a lip balm, but something in there to make it smell better. And then, and they gave him stickers to put on it. So they were just really, really good and accommodating at that point. So they moved us from one room, and then we walked over to where the MRI machine was. And so they let Bryce press the buttons to let it go up and down and move the bed in and out. So he was very happy that he got to do that.
Yes.
And then he even said, thank you for letting me play with the machine, you know, and I think they all melted in the room because he's so polite. And so then it was time. They got up there, and then they put the gas on him.
It didn't really faze him.
He started looking, and then he giggled, and then he giggled again. And then I saw his eyes roll up, and then he just conked.
He was out.
I think that's like, that got me, just like watching him just go out like that. And then they're like, Mom, do you want to kiss his forehead before he goes in and you leave the room? I was like, really? You just like totally set me up to cry. But then I went over and I kissed his forehead, and then I was just like, oh, but like I just told you, you know, I go through every day, and I know all of this, but I don't focus on everything. But I had the day off. I'm with you guys. I'm watching all of this. I'm watching Bryce go through all of this. You know, we're having to jump through all these hoops to make it an okay experience for him. And I just had to focus and deal with it, that hey, we go through a lot with him, you know. And it's one thing with his autism. It's another thing with seizures and MRIs and EEGs and his health. I'm not crying. I just have an issue with my throat.
Yeah.
But that, you know, I that day I did cry a little bit because it just really hit me. It just really, really hit me. And I think we just go through those things.
That's what we do. We save them all up, and then eventually it comes out. So anyway, they got him asleep. They laid him down in the bed, and we had to leave the room. Unfortunately, we couldn't even watch them through a window. They just took us to the waiting room, in fact, and said that it would be 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah. So I set my alarm for an hour, and they came out before then. It was about 45 minutes, and they said he was starting to wake up. And so we got into the room, and he was still out. but the nurse there said that he was fighting to get the little oxygen thing out of his nose, so that's when they call the parents in. And I'm glad they did call us in before he woke up, because if he woke up, is he going to remember why he was there? And of course, where's mommy and daddy? You want mommy and daddy there when you wake up. And
they prepped us that a lot of times children will wake up and be very upset. Mm-hmm. Some of them get a little angry. Yep. Some of them, there's all different kinds of reactions. But he did ask us how he wakes up during the day, normally. And we said, he wakes up happy. And he said, okay. Because often it's however you wake up at home is how you wake up out of anesthesia as well. But he woke up happy. So that made us happy.
Yeah, we're going to post a video on YouTube, his YouTube channel, Parenting Autism on YouTube.
Yeah, because you did record that.
He said some funny things when he came out.
He did. I think the funniest was he was just telling us some stuff, and he kind of knew what was happening, and then it was time for him to get dressed. So this is when he sat up and he realized he was not in the MRI room anymore.
Where's the donut machine?
Whoa, where's the donut machine? I teleported.
Yeah.
How did we teleport? And he really thought he teleported from one room to the other. So it was super cute.
It was funny.
And then he had wobbly legs, and
that was funny.
We had to get him outside.
My legs aren't working. Why aren't my legs working? It's funny. He wasn't worried about it.
No. He was okay. He was we had to kind of really help him into the vehicle. And then we walked. Okay, so we stayed downtown very close to the hospital. So it was like walking distance, but not short walking distance. Mm-hmm. And so that morning, it was a beautiful morning out. And I'm like, well, let's just walk over to the hospital. That'll be nice.
Yeah, I was thinking the same
thing. So we didn't think about driving. And then they're like, okay, well, go get your vehicle. We're going to take him out in the wheelchair. And then, of course, he has these wobbly legs and the boy can't walk. And we're like,
whoopsie.
What are you going to do here? So they had a shuttle service that we could use. And it was a security guard vehicle that they got for us that took us over to the hotel. So we're riding in the back, and then when we got out, Bryce saw that it was a security vehicle, and he's learning about good guys and bad guys.
He's like, I didn't do anything wrong.
He did. He saw the guy didn't do anything wrong. And then we're getting ready to go in the hotel, and he turns around and he goes, excuse me. And the guy goes, yes. He goes, I'm a good guy.
Yeah, I'm a good guy.
The guy's like, okay. He totally didn't get it, but we were cracking up. So we got him up to the room, and really from there,
we did
a
couple
so good
hotel tours. We got this little thing for Bryce to help him hold the camera. So he led us through a couple of hotel tours. And I think, you were worried at the MRI, and I became worried after the MRI because we went through the weekend without any issues. MRI was on Friday, and then we start school on Monday, and it was everything that I could do to get his attention. And same with his therapist that day and the following day, Tuesday. And I'm like, oh no, what did we do? I felt like he had taken 5 steps back because he wasn't even... It was like before we even saw the MAPS doctor, it was like, where is he? He's not home. The lights are on, and nobody's home. And so the hospital called to check in on him. So I called him back and eventually got through to a nurse. And she said, well, it can take a day or two to wear off. It affects every child differently. And I'm like, okay. And then Wednesday, he was back with it. So whatever happened, I don't know what happened, but by Wednesday, he was back to himself. And I was very thankful for that because I was very concerned because in my research, I had, read that some kids react adversely to anesthesia and they can regress. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I done to my child? How long is this going to last? Is it going to come back? So
I know
I was very concerned.
I didn't even know you were spiraling down that train of thought until I came home from work on Tuesday. And we have a tradition now that we do Taco Tuesday, and it's a big deal, and Bryce loves it, and we have food we can eat there on our plan. So anyway, I come home and I'm like, okay, time for Taco Tuesday. And you have this look on your face that I haven't seen in a long time. It's the deep
look.
sad, look, the one that I start to panic like, oh, Lordy, what's going on? Yeah, right? And you're like, I don't think I'm going to go. I'm like, why? And you're like,
I'm exhausted.
I'm like, what is going on? And you're like, I'm just sad. I'm sad for him. I'm like, he's okay. And you're like, no, what have we done to him? It's the anesthesia. I'm like, okay, you're tired and I get it and you're concerned, but we need to go eat. And then if we come back and you're still tired, then that's fine. You go ahead and go to bed, but don't lay down now at 6 o'clock when you're sad like this. It's not good. So you're like, do I have to? I said, well,
I didn't say do I have to.
Kind of. So,
in other words, if you really wanted me to go,
there you go. If you really want me to go, maybe that's how you said it.
Probably.
And I said, I would really like you to go. So you're like, okay. So we went.
I sucked it up.
You sucked it up. Had you some chips and tacos.
That sounds good right about now.
And then we got home, and you were in a better place. And he was spacey at dinner. He was.
And Miss Melanie even said,
his ABA, his RBT
she went
tech,
to dinner with us.
She went with us, and she noticed it too. And I had asked his therapist when I picked him up on Tuesday if he had noticed it. Because you had mentioned, you sent me a text to work, actually, and said you were concerned.
Yeah.
And that he was having a hard time focusing in school, and you thought maybe it was the anesthesia. And so I asked when I picked him up from therapy, but he said maybe a few more prompts than usual, but nothing really bad. But I knew that the day before, it wasn't his occupational therapist, but his speech therapist. Bryce told me, I'm having a hard time, Mommy. I said, you are? What happened? He goes, I got a thumbs down. I'm like, oh, okay. You having a hard time focusing? Yeah, my brain's having a hard time. That was Monday, and then that happened Tuesday. But really, by Wednesday, he was back to his happy self. And then you were happy that you went to dinner with us and that you didn't let it totally take you down for that night, because it could have. And I said, let's give it a little more time, before we go there.
Yeah, so Monday and Tuesday during school, I really had to use what they call the rapid prompt method, which is when you say their name 3 times in a row quickly, Bryce, 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 and then he would.
It does work for him. Yes. It really does. Yeah.
So any parents out there having trouble getting your child's attention, that worked for us. And, after we saw the MAPS doctor and got on the gluten-free, casein-free, we haven't had to do that really.
Not much.
So I was back to that on Monday and Tuesday, and I was just really concerned. But
I know.
Anyway.
So overall, the experience could not have gone better, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Because if you ask Bryce how it went, he's going to tell you it was great.
Yeah.
So to me, that's great. You and I, we have our own worries and stuff we deal with. But if you were to ask Bryce, how did it go? He'd go, it was great. They took pictures. He was happy. Yeah, I teleported you to have that. But so we always try to surround these type of experiences with fun experiences. So when we went to the hotels, it was exciting for him that we would be staying in 2 hotels. And I think I mentioned on the podcast last time that we had booked a room at the tallest hotel in Orlando. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how many floors it was because we hadn't been there before. But in my research, I found the hotel that was the tallest because I knew that would make Bryce very excited.
Yeah.
So I had sent an email when I booked through the Hampton Inn, and I want to give both hotels a shout out on here, just because when you do kind things for my child, I'll give you a shout out. Mm-hmm. And so first we stayed at the Hampton Inn, the medical center in downtown Orlando. And on there, they'll always ask you if there's anything special requests. And I had put on there, that my son is 8 years old with autism and that he loves staying on the top floor. And if there was any way they could accommodate that, that would be great. They had 5 floors, which is not significant, but for Bryce, it's a couple more than we normally have at our hotel. So we got there and they didn't have a room available on the top floor. So we told Bryce, that's okay, we're on the 4th floor. 4 is good, you still have a good view. And then he handled it fine. And we went up, and when we walked in, there was like one of those, if you've ever been on a cruise and they make cute little animals out of towels and washcloths. That's what was on our bed.
That
And
was a surprise.
we had a really nice room, like probably one of the nicest rooms I've had in Hampton Inn. And so I didn't even tie that had to do with my special request until Bryce was doing his hotel tour. And I think you had already gone back to the room, so it was just me and him finishing it up. And he was walking through the lobby, and then the lady behind the desk said, "Oh, are you in room 4 or whatever?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry that we couldn't get you on the top floor, but did you see the surprise that we left you on your bed?" I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I did. I felt like I was on a cruise ship. That was very nice." So I didn't even know that they were going above and beyond, you know, to try to do something kind for us because I had sent that. So shout out, very much appreciated, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then we went to the AC Marriott Hotel, which was the tallest one. And I don't know if I put I know I always request the top floor. So I'm sure I put that in there, and I probably put the same thing.
And I mentioned it at the front
And then
desk.
you mentioned it at the front desk.
I said, if we get the top floor, you will make his day.
Yes.
So.
And they had a room. So we were on the 25th floor, which is a huge, huge ordeal.
The top floor, yeah.
Bryce loves being able to look out and look down and see things from a high distance. He really has no fear of heights. Or he enjoys them. There's no fear there. He tells me sometimes his tummy tickles, but it's like the thrill for him. And so he loved being there. Our room was super nice. Everybody was so nice and accommodating. And it was just great doing the tour. And they took real interest in him. And that's what I loved as well. In fact, when we were checking in and I had mentioned his autism, one of the ladies at the front desk said, "Oh, we have an intern here. Did you see this, you know, right when you guys came in? And our intern has autism, and we very much support that here at our hotel." I'm like, "Well, thank you. It's good to know." So I love it when I run into people that just love us, you know, and love our situation and our journey and stuff like that. So
it was fun because the check-in desk was on the 18th floor. So we had to go up to the 18 to check in. And then when we came down later with the video, he was walking around, and I think I told him to go up to the front desk there and ask him questions.
Yeah,
so
he did. He
It was
did. He
cute.
involved them for some questions. So we'll be posting both of his hotel tours on his YouTube video.
Soon, yep.
Yep.
Yep, that's good.
We'll do it soon. So anyway, so that whole thing was great. And then we also, while we were in Orlando, wanted to do, actually I want to say this because it's important. We knew we were wise to book that room after the MRI because he got done probably around noon. But we were able to get in, we went and had lunch, and when we came back, we were able to check into the hotel. And it was so nice and relaxing to just like have nothing planned.
Peace and quiet.
They told us we could extend our stay till 2 the next day if we wanted to.
How about that?
So there was no rush the next morning. It was like we really got to breathe.
Yeah.
After all we've been going through, really, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
Stuff I don't even talk about on
I think
here has
we
been
both
going
needed
on.
that recharge.
We did. It was so, and Bryce is thrilled to be in the room. Once he got his tour out of the way, he was just happy to be in the room and look out the window now and then.
It was funny too when he was doing his tours. He always had to go in the men's bathroom and flush the toilets. Oh my goodness! Wait till you guys see it.
He's pretty funny.
It's
So
funny.
he did a great job.
Yeah.
He's really getting the hang of this. It was quite fun and funny. So, yep. So that was great. And so then on Saturday, you guys were going to go to the Science Center, which I'm going to let you talk about that. And for
I think
me,
it's the Science Museum, Orlando Science Museum.
oh, I
And
thought you called it the Science Center, but I finally did something for me. And you're like, "Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Would it be okay if I just find a place and go get my nails done?"
Yeah.
I can't even tell you. It's probably been 4 months since I've done that, which is a long time for me because I've been doing them myself half-heartedly. And it was just nice. It was relaxing. When I told them I was there, you know, from Port St. Lucie and that you guys were coming, I'm like, "Can I just go back to the chair?" This is after I was all done. They have the massage chairs. They're like, "Yeah, you can stay till we close." I'm like, "Okay, thank you." I had my book. I was reading that. I was like, I just haven't had time for me to relax like that with a good book a little pampering, nice and relaxing for a long time. So it's important. And I feel like with all we do, it's important to remind parents who are listening on this podcast to try to carve out those windows of time when you can, because I know they don't come that often. For me, they don't come that often.
I think one of our issues is when we're at home, we still, or at least me, I still feel like I need to be doing things that need fixing or work or something else. So when we get away to a hotel, I'm really forced to unplug, relax,
true.
Enjoy. So it was extra special for me.
Yeah, it was good. So tell them about the Science Center Museum.
Oh, yeah, the Science Center was really cool. We got in and they had all different kinds of science-related experiments. I mean, we were there for a long time. I'd say we were there for 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, and we didn't see everything. They had holographs, they had dinosaurs, they had airplane things. They had a really cool 3D, how do I describe it? It was like a hologram of the solar system. So like you pressed on Saturn and it brought this giant Saturn over in front of you and it told you about the planet. They had another section where you could be a weather forecaster. It was just really cool. And they had like these little portable exhibits that the college students were doing, I guess, where they would set up a table for a half an hour and you could come over and do whatever they were doing. Like the one that we did was the old tablecloth trick with the dishes on top. So they had this cloth under all the dishes, and if you pulled it out fast enough, the dishes would stay on the table.
That's fun.
So Bryce had fun doing that, and we just had a really good time. It was relaxing. It wasn't rushed. He went into the hurricane machine, which he really liked, the wind blowing in there.
Yeah.
So we did that.
And you studied hurricanes in school, right?
Yeah, we recently studied
that?
hurricanes and tornadoes. So he's putting it all together. He's much more engaged this time than he was the last science center that we went to.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago.
But yeah, it was really good. And it was a nice afternoon.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was last weekend. And then we did go to the fair twice, which we've talked about that in past years on the podcast. Mm-hmm. For Bryce, the fair is the best place for him to do rides.
It keeps getting better for him.
It does.
Like every year he wants to go on more rides, and this year is no exception. We started on Sunday and we got there. What time did we get there?
We got there about 3:30, I think.
3:30. I think it had been open the day before.
Right.
And then so we got there the second day of the fair in the afternoon, and it was packed. Lines were long, and fortunately we had wristbands, and we could do whatever ride.
Thank you to my brother for the gift.
Uncle Randy.
Uncle Randy, shout out.
And so I don't know how many rides he got to do. 5?
No, I think I think he did 8 that day.
8? Okay, good. So we did 8 rides, and I think it was getting dark, and I know I was done. And,
oh, yeah. Well, we knew we had already planned to go on Thursday, which is what we normally do because it's dollar night. Mm-hmm. And we've done that because not only do you save money, but with Bryce, it's really been unpredictable year to year. It was hit and miss. One year he'd love it. One year he wouldn't touch a ride. So last year we knew when he did that guitar ride that went so high up in the air by himself twice last year, that's when we're like, okay, we need to recruit somebody to come and ride with him because we don't do these kind of things. Yeah. And so his cousin, Jessica, said, I'll do it. She said that last year. So now we're like, okay, it's fair time. Are you on? And she didn't have to work that day. So they went together Thursday night. They had the best time. But I felt bad for her because Bryce already had put his agenda together in his mind when we had gone on Sunday. So he knew he wanted to do Ring of Fire, which goes completely upside down. It's a large circle. And he did that one, and then she's mentioned, oh, that's the zipper. I really like that one. And it spins you upside down too.
Yeah.
So she's like, do you think he'll like that? I'm like, if he likes Ring of Fire, I think he'll like that too, but we'll find out. And then they did another one called the Claw, which goes up high, and then the guitar. So 4 pretty wild rides right out the gate. She said, by the 5th one, she's like, I might need to take a little break. So I went on the bumper cars with him. Then the lines were starting to get long at that point, but he was great. And he said he wanted to do 2 new rides. And then I knew the way to get him out was to tell him that we could go to Chick-fil-A because that's our special treat. And again, it's gluten-free, dairy-free meal. So I said, you want to do another ride and then Chick-fil-A? And then he's like, yeah, okay. 2 new rides, the guitar, then Chick-fil-A. All right, so we had the plan. And then he remembered that he wanted to do the hammer because he did this last year where you take the hammer and you can ring the bell when you smash it down. And he wanted to get a prize because he got a prize last year. So we had to ask to find it. It was a little more discreet this year. But I'm so glad nobody else was there because the young man that was running that game, listen, if you meet Bryce now, it doesn't take you long at all to understand that he's got some part of disability. They may not know it's autism, but they know there's something. Mm-hmm. And Bryce is just always so kind and sweet that people respond to that. Mm-hmm. And so that young man was like, he could tell. And then Bryce was like the hammer was heavy. Yeah. And he'd put it too far back over his shoulder and it almost like take him back. So I'm trying to record it because I am now Bryce's full-time recorder for everything.
He requests you to
record
everything.
It's like, Mommy, record this. Mommy, record that. So I'm recording it. And so I'm like, can you maybe help him like hand over hand? The kid's like looking at me like, are you crazy, lady? But okay. So he went and he helped him with it. And then awesome. He came back and said, do you want to try it again? And then Jessica, she paid for that one because she wanted to treat him. And so he got to pick his prize and he picked this really large, colorful ball and he's very happy about that. Yeah. So it was just a great night, another great experience. I love that he's asking for new things. Probably the funniest thing was when he got off the zipper, I think it was. And I'll usually ask him how he feels after or how was it? And he'll say, great. But this time I said, how did that one make your brain feel? And he said, out of service. I'm like, out of service. And then he paused. He goes, it feels kind of dizzy. I said, yeah, that was a dizzy one. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we had good times. And you had mentioned the solar system at the science place. And you found online the opportunity to go to a planetarium here at our local college, right?
Yeah. So I've been kicking around getting him a telescope. And they said, well, the best thing to do is to maybe go find your local astronomy club and look through their telescopes and, what you want to look at, and then you can be able to pick one out. Well, then I got hooked on looking for observatories and planetariums, and it just turned out that there was a show locally, maybe 10 miles away, that they were doing in a planetarium, and the local astronomy club was bringing their telescopes so that we could look at the stars and nebulas and maybe the moon. So, it was $5 per ticket. And I'm like, wow, well, we just have to do that. We'll buy the ticket. And if Bryce can't handle it, we'll just go out the exit. It wasn't no big shakes, as you would say.
I know.
And so we got there and they were setting up the telescopes. So we were a little early, but it was good. We got in line. And there was an elevator in the college, so we went up and down the elevator while you stood in line for us. And we got in there, and Bryce was like, what is this? What do the chairs, are we like in the space shuttle or something? And I'm like, no. I said, the chair's probably reclining. We're going to be looking at the ceiling.
Well, it's like being inside of a dome.
Yeah.
To give the visual. If somebody hasn't been there, it is very different. It's not like your typical room.
Yeah, so you're kind of looking up at the sky.
Round and up and
So they started the show, and Bryce was like, what's that? What's this? What's that? So he had all these questions loudly. And I'm like, and I shushed him.
I know. I was like,
oh no, here we go. And he went, he was a little mad, but he didn't fall to the floor. He's like,
try to hold
Daddy,
his
you
breath.
shushed me. And I'm like, well, Bryce, I said, we're not supposed to talk loudly when there's a show going on. Well, why not? So I'm like, okay, talk in a soft voice. Okay. So, they're showing us the planets, and it was a 40-minute show, and I'd say 30 minutes in, he was pretty much done. But he was engaged for most of it.
I thought he tolerated it really well.
So then we went out to the parking lot, and they had the telescope set up, and they were looking at different stars. And we saw the Orion Nebula, for anybody that knows what that is. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was 2 small, bright stars, and then like this cloud of gas where stars are born. And it was really interesting. We didn't get to see the moon because the moon had already set or was setting. And that's really what I wanted to see. But I was surprised because they had these big, giant telescopes out there. And the stars, they were still really tiny.
I thought they would be closer as well.
Yeah, so, that was very interesting to me. So we went around, we stood in each line, which, there's maybe 5 people in each line, so it didn't take long to look through the telescopes. And then we were done. We went to Mama's house, and he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So that was another fun break.
I loved it. It was just a nice family. And again, it was like literally less than 5 minutes
right
from
around
my
the
parents.
corner.
So
Yeah,
it
right
was
around the corner.
great and convenient, and it worked out well.
Mm-hmm.
So then that rolls into today, which was the Young Eagles program.
Yeah. So for those of you who have been listening, it wasn't too long ago that we went for a flight in a 1929 Ford tri-motor airplane. And it was there that we learned about the Young Eagles program. So this is nationwide program. It's through the EAA, I think they call it. But anyway, it's called the Young Eagles program. And they bring in volunteer pilots, and you can register, and it's free. You get to ride in a plane, and that's how they get kids interested in flying, is through these free flights. And they do it twice a year, and I didn't know they did it twice a year. So it was just a couple of weeks out, and I signed us up, and we went this morning, and it was just amazing.
The whole experience, I can't even believe that that's something that was provided to us as a free complimentary service.
Yeah.
They had 11 pilots that volunteered their time and their planes. Well, one had a helicopter, which was extra cool. And then the sheriff's helicopter came in. Mm-hmm. So I took Bryce over to talk to the pilot of the sheriff helicopter, and he had lots of questions for him, and that was neat. Bryce got to fly a Piper airplane today, and they let him be in the pilot seat.
Yeah, so about 3 kids went on each ride, and so 2 were in the back seat.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Bryce got the front seat, but he really
managed it. I don't know if he asked or if he just went in first.
And the pilot was like, I wasn't even flying the plane. Bryce was doing everything.
He said he knows more than I do. He was telling him where to shift, all these different things. And Bryce was using all his terminology.
Yeah.
And then when he was telling me and you, I said, so you got to be the co-pilot today? He goes, not the co-pilot, Mommy. I was the captain pilot. I was in the pilot seat. I wasn't on the right this time. I was on the left. I'm like, he was.
Yeah.
And he said, I had passengers in the back.
Yeah, it was really cool. And he had so much fun. And they had a pancake breakfast for donations, so we donated for that. And then they even were serving lunch when we left.
I know.
But
and
it was still early in the morning.
The people were so kind and just, it was such a fun, happy vibe there.
That's
all the people that were there, all the parents, all the children.
It was nice to be in a
all
place
the volunteers.
where everybody was happy.
It was a great vibe. Beautiful weather this morning.
Yeah.
And, I actually, one of our listeners that I've become friends with on Facebook and stuff, she had told me about her son doing Young Eagles, but I thought he had to be older, so we hadn't looked into it.
Yeah, so it starts at age 8 and it goes through age 17.
And I forgot. I was, for some reason, thinking it was like 10, but so people can know the age is 8. And then I guess at 13 is
when you start studying, really,
Yeah.
to be a pilot.
But there's like lots of really great opportunities through this and a great community of people.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
sounds like it.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So
that was
anywho.
great too.
And we got a new review, right?
We do have a new review, so I do want to read that. I wish I could read it with a great Australian accent because she is from Australia.
Yeah.
I think her name is Janie. And so she said, beautiful and encouraging podcast. I love feeling like I'm sitting down with a cuppa with friends, hearing about their journey. Your love for Bryce and desire to raise him in the Lord fills me with such joy. This podcast makes me feel a little less lonely in my journey parenting autism. With much love from Australia. So thank you
That was sweet.
so much for
Yeah.
that.
We appreciate any reviews and all reviews.
Yeah,
So
we're going to keep asking for them. So if
Yep.
anybody else, if
We'll keep
you're
reading 'em.
enjoying this podcast, please
yeah.
take a few moments and leave us a review. It would be very great.
So I think I'd like to bring Bryce in to have him tell us about his experience. this
Okay, that
morning.
sounds good.
Would that be all right?
Yeah, and I think the next podcast we'll talk about MRI results and then his ABA plan. But let's wrap
Perfect.
up with Bryce.
All right, we'll pause here. Hi, Bryce.
So
He's fine.
we did the aircraft flying today, and I was the captain pilot.
You were the captain pilot.
Yes,
So tell me about what happened.
the it was gonna stall.
Yeah, it was going to stall.
I was using the throttle.
Yeah. Did the pilot tell you what to do?
Yeah,
Yeah. How high did you go up in the air?
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet? Wow. Who landed the airplane?
Me and him,
Yeah. Do you remember his name?
Oscar.
Oscar. Was Oscar nice?
Yeah,
Yeah. How many people were in the back seat?
there was 3 people. They were kids.
Yeah. In the back?
Yes.
Did they like your flying?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the best part about it?
I like turning the aircraft.
Oh, he let you turn it?
Yeah.
That's really cool, buddy.
Bang the aircraft into
Yeah.
an angle
Yeah?
of 40 degrees.
Oh, 40 degrees bank angle?
Yeah.
Tell us about the pitch.
The pitch was great.
Yeah, what do you do with the pitch?
I had to pull the throttle stick forward and backwards.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting, huh?
Anything else you want to tell us?
I had fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, buddy. I'm glad you had fun. It was fun for us, too, watching you.
I recorded it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. All right. Bye, everybody.
He's waving.
He's waving.
Okay.
Thanks, Bryce.
Bye. I had a fun time talking to you and the other people, too.
Oh, good. You were.
Bye, people.
Bye, people. Don't hit anything. No, don't do that.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.